Oh, the program has been absolutely amazing because it's about resilience, strength, and celebration of women coming together, supporting each other across the community, across the Nepalese community. And I want to say a huge thank you to all the women that have written their stories. Yeah, and this book, it is very, very brave of them to do such things.
So since you are aware that we've been working on these optimistic ones for quite a while now, we do expect whatever help assistance possible from the government, and then also your feedback when you go through the book. Let us know through the survey and your personal messages how you feel about it as a
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I've read a couple of stories in the book, but I'm looking forward to reading the whole book and to promote it because it's really important that Nepalese women's voices are heard out in the broader community. So thank you for all your work.
On behalf of the Defense Society, our team, we can't thank you enough for your ever supportive and large work of the ventilation.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
What is your feedback and opinion about the program today? The book launch program left it by its President Stale.
Quite this makes quite a lot. Wow. Second thing is very from a symbolic nature. You wanted on the final day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. That's a very symbolic and powerful sign. Secondly, the content is part of the day of International Human Rights Week. That's also another powerful symbol and to tell us that the voice of people is a human right. The violence against it is not accepted. And for me, that's how the book itself is another element of bravery and courage. I know it is difficult to talk about these matters, and it is much closer to a book that all of us live in. And the women are coming out and telling their stories is a very, very powerful, respectful, and courageous thing to do. For that, I am very grateful. I've learned a lot today.
Thank you. And since you heard us saying that it's vested for the men as well, what would be your message for the men who are here to support us today?
I appreciate the men who come out and support. I also believe that these sorts of issues have to be not collective benefit. It cannot be from the burden of the women who themselves experience violence. So it is very important that the men take a proactive approach in understanding and supporting and also changing their behavior to support a better society.
Well, thank you, Vivian, for your valuable time. Since you've gone through the book launch here with us today, what has been your main focus of the event?
Well, it was just such a beautiful event to go to, and I think the sharing stories is so important for people, and just that first of all, the courage of the people who shared those stories. Like telling some of those stories is very hard to do, but so worthwhile because you feel heard and understood, and people can relate to those stories. And I think, we saw with the woman from the Cook Islands how inspiring it is for other communities and how important it is to tell stories so that we break stigma and we can get to the root of what some of the problems are and how do we solve them. And those stories of migration are so important because it also helps governments say, well, how do we make that path easier? How do we make sure people have got the support they need? And how do we, make sure everyone has a fulfilling life and has the support they need to have that? And sharing stories is so important for people to be understood and heard and just not feel alone in their situation. And so many of our stories are common stories. And to not feel alone is the most important thing.
Yeah, as you said, a few other communities who are present here, so they already got inspired and chose to come out to say that we also have this issue in our community.
Yeah, that's right.
So overall, what do you think this would have felt women in the Australian community have community especially here? What contribution would this book give?
And just sharing the story of what happened to them, how they overcome that, what support they had, how women often support women and help them find the support they need. And just the courage to tell those stories and not keep it behind closed doors and to change their lives and be an inspiration for their daughters and a good example for their daughters too, because ultimately we all want to be that, don't we? We want to be good examples for our daughters.
And thank you for your time and congratulations once again.
And I love the work you guys do. It's just amazing work, and I'm very grateful that you're all situated in Broadmeadows. I feel very lucky to have you, so thank you.
Thank you for being here and supporting us today. So, what is your overall insight, feedback of today's exploration?
Well, first, I'm really encouraged by the fact that Bahini Samaj is such a strong and growing group. It's a great demonstration of community development and women taking power and really supporting one another, supporting the broader community. So that's the first thing. And the second is the strength and the courage to have to take on such an important issue around the abuse, the detrimental, the things that are hidden away from us in our very homes and streets. There's violence, domestic violence, family violence that we are hearing more about. So to have the group come out and invite women to tell their stories is really empowering. It's very encouraging, and it's very moving to see these women come out publicly and talk about such a dreadful occasion, because it can be quite embarrassing, it can be quite revolting and diminishing. And so I think it's a great expression of courage and pride to come out and share these stories together. It helps you to expose a really important issue, and it makes me very encouraging, very encouraged to know that women are able to sort of challenge this dominating experience we have of men who seem to think it's okay, seem to think that they have some sort of more important position in society. And it doesn't matter whether they're Nepalese or any other cultural background. Men need to be really clear that they need to share the space, they need to share the power. And, sexism is unacceptable, and violence is unacceptable. Just like racism is unacceptable, we need to be working together and exposing these things and letting our young people understand that we need to share the space and can't presume they have some sort of power over someone else. Where the stories today were very moving, really touching, and quite upsetting, really. So it's really important work. So it makes me very pleased that City of Bahini Samaj can actually show the way in this way and actually help us to talk about these important, because we really will never have the discussion. So I just want to feel so grateful and humbled by this experience today.
So could you just give me a little insight of what take-home message you from this book launch today?
Firstly, I think congratulations to the community, and congratulations to the women. And congratulations is a hard thing to say when women are telling such a personal story. It speaks of, for me, the importance of speaking out, not to have silence, but the other part today was connectedness, because when people say that a story reaches into other communities and across the nation, that's the importance of speaking out and telling story and learning the story and
Was it an overwhelming moment for you to watch this today?
It's something I feel very, very deeply, and I think I feel the stories, but it's the connectedness. And what I walk away from is the connectedness and the power that comes from women working together and working in their community, working with men and their coordinators as well. The power from that's overwhelming, because that's the importance. It's an individual story, it's linked up from someone else's, and that's how we have change. So that is what's not overwhelmed by story, is the power of change. And that's what that is what today is about.
And we've been very privileged today to have actually 3 councillors from men, right? Councillor Mark Rai was here previously too. So what is your opinion and feedback about book launch today?
Well, one of the things that I found interesting was that you invited other leaders of multicultural communities. And there was a senior elder from the Cook Islands here today, and she was really impressed by the book and the stories of the women, because she said in her community a lot of women feel that they can't talk about it. It's kept behind the family's closed door,
And so she was thinking about, yes, Cook Island women need to do something similar. And so I think this is really important because it's, experience of women who's moved to Australia and so don't necessarily have all the same family supports that they would if they were in Nepal. And so it is a bit different to maybe the situations of some other women who experience domestic violence who've still got some family support near them, even though abusive men often try to separate women from their support. And it was also interesting, one of the stories and one of the women made reference to the fact that Didi Bahini Samaj made a big difference because that was her support base from within her own community. Because also I think a lot of women from different migrant backgrounds also don't necessarily feel comfortable going to government services or government funded services and would maybe feel more comfortable approaching a group like Didi Bahini Samaj in their own community. So I think that was another thing that I learnt in today, the importance of having a group like Didi Bahini Samaj and equivalent groups in other communities. So I think it's congratulations, and it's great that the book has been published and it's going to go into Mirabek's libraries. Hopefully it will go to all of our libraries because there's a growing Nepalese population in Faulkner as well as Glenroy. I mean, many have been pushed out of Mirabek because of the cost of housing, but it really needs to go into all of the libraries.
Yeah, and this book consists of 139 something plus pages, and 39 writers choose to write. But sadly, most of the subject they have written, it's about cultural barriers basically into Australia. But most of the stories are about domestic violence. So that shows how much deeper is the issue. Yeah. But thank you for acknowledging our work and your presence today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Asha, for that's it. I think it's just doing the keep people to put this together. A relatively short period of time is what I know. I want to see the strength. The other is the strength and community and works together. There's a lot of notions that you can't talk about. It's talk about it. And that, you've got to be quiet because of what it does to families or what it does to communities. But in fact, this is being together. That's the difference. It's solidified from what I'm feeling and seeing. So that's a good message. That's a good message.
Hope that this book will be a weapon and tool for all those who are behind doors, who need support and have the courage to speak up against domestic violence. Since you've been part of our history book gone, what is your feedback and understanding of the event?
My understanding goes back before this event to a long relationship with Didi Bahini Samaj. So since I think 2017, I've personally known Didi Bahini Samaj and their incredible work. So I think this launch is just one of the many events, activities, products, which is really important, that Didi Bahini Samaj Victoria has produced. But I has been Didi Bahini Samaj Victoria just going on and on, becoming more professional, more impact. And I think about this book is really just one of the results of all of that's growth.
And we have noticed that in Southern Legal Community Center, you've helped a lot of women from our community escaping the family violence and getting the guidance and referral. So what is the message to the men who are out there in the society as a perpetrator but showing a very gentle face in the public?
This has got to stop. You're hurting your children, you're hurting your sisters, you're hurting your mothers, and you're providing such a negative force in society. I think that men in the community need to step up and look inside themselves as to where that anger, that power, that need to have power, particularly over women, comes from, and address that.
You must have been aware that we address this men anger issue and counseling in our second part of short about it earlier. So do you think that education and letting men know that there's a consequence for their action can be more reiterated, than to be the center that this is a consequence if you don't take the opportunity of changing yourself? So
I think for us it's a real challenge because we work with victims of family violence, victims, survivors, and survivor is an important term. And with our scarce resources, we've chosen not to work with the men, but I think there are a lot of activities and programs now that do work with men, including that incredible.
what has been your overall insight of the book launch?
I think the important thing for me is that there's been two parts. One is that it supports and recognises the women here in Australia, but whilst that's been happening and while I've been reading the book and talking to people, I'm reminded of the people that I work with in Nepal. So I got a message a moment ago from Landrum district. We're working with an Amma Samwar to build a facility for them in January. So my mind goes from our current work in Nepal to the current work of the women here. And why do we do that? Because I have a belief very strongly in supporting women.
So do you mean to say that you are torn about your time between Nepalese in Australia and Nepalese students back in Nepal?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time each day working on Nepalese programs, and I really struggle sometimes not to be there. So to be able to go back in January will mean that I'm able to reconnect with my Nepalese families over in there. But at the same time, I really value and appreciate people like yourself and the Dedi Body Samai here, because I know how strong this group is, but it's reflective of the strength of women in country in Nepal.
Since you have witnessed the culture and the issues of Nepalese society in hand, they're back inside. So what is your message to men from here today?
Well, the issue for men here is really about supporting, encouraging and loving women and valuing what they have to contribute. There are equal and they have got skills and abilities that, we want to encourage and support, and that our role is to work alongside them and to encourage them to achieve their goal. I have 3 daughters and I have 1 line. So therefore, I'm driven by 4 women who are very strong, and that guides me as to what I do and how I treat them. And I hope that my treatment of my family is also shared with a wider Nepali and Australian family, as well as our Nepali family back home.
What did you go through when doing a book launch today? First of all, it's amazing, and the invitation being here, it's really good because I'm so honored. It's a very special launch. It's a very special one because this launch of this book with the stories in it, that is going to inspire so many women in the world, not just your community, my community, but every other woman in the world. So I'm really grateful, just listening to some of the stories. So yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, amazing. Especially to Dedi Body and for providing this. That you women are amazing.
Yeah, it's very sad to hear that this kind of issue in every community. So hope this has inspired your community as well to come forward and talk about the violence in our country.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can work together in this aspect.
Yes, see, this what I've learned today. has made me see that we in our country also have the same issue. But our women, they kind of keep quiet. They don't step up. So I believe what have been written in the book today, it's going to help us women come out and share whatever story we went through. So I'm really, really happy what you have done, because I'm excited already that I can take it back to my community and just say to the women, look, you know, we should already have done this. But I know whatever you have done, the book is going to help us. And I'm so proud of the women here today. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's an honor.